from agentic fever. It is a sort of burnout. It's the experts in burnout call it when you're feeling crispy. And is that feeling that if I'm not coding agents, if I'm not creating agents, and if the agents are not working for me at a certain moment, I'm wasting my time. Now, I want to today define this agentic fever a little bit more because a lot of Silicon Valley, for instance, right now is suffering from this agentic fever. And a lot of people around me are as well kind of really enthralled with this AI evolution. I want to first define this AI evolution. And at the end, I want to give you a little bit of my agent philosophy, both for the humans that need to take care of the agents, and then also how to instruct agents. But how the hell did we get here? So it was pretty fast. Right at the beginning, what we thought we had was a chatbot. And actually, the story of ChatGPT is OpenAI releasing the API, realizing that nobody is putting a chatbot out on the internet and then doing it themselves. And what we had here is the artifact was a conversation and the innovation was context. When we ask Siri a follow-up question, even today, Siri doesn't know what we're talking about. Instead, these AI agents had context. And so the beautiful thing is that we finally kind of had a friend, right? And a lot of people kind of befriended this new technology. Then something else happened with the release of Codex, with the release of Claude and so on, Windsurf, you name it, all of these technologies, the coding tool was born, and the artifact that it produced was code, like Lovable, make me a new website, right? And here, the interesting thing, the innovation was that finally we went from conversation to craft, and I finally had a junior engineer or coder at my service. Then something else happened. I was using these coding tools 3 weeks ago, right, like this. I was telling the system, create code for me, create a system for me, create a CRM for me, create a Kanban board for me. Then I realized that the same tool, we're going from chatbot to coding tool, but the coding tool can be used as an agent. And you can instruct the coding tool to be the artifact, not to create something, but to be that something. And once you start getting into these agentic loops, you realize that here the innovation is not just craft, it's craft plus self-improvement. If I ask the agent to create code, that code stays as it is until I tell it, please improve the code. Once the agent is running the whole process, once the agent is the code, I can inject the self-improvement. And here we finally have a COO, a chief operating officer in the AI. But as I'm doing this, what is happening on the internet, and I'm not going to tell you what is happening on the internet, either you know or you don't, is that we are getting to agent orchestration. So the next coding tool will be, and already kind of is, an agent orchestrator. And here, what is the product of an agent orchestrator is a team of agents. And so you have to start imagining that within these two last categories, we have one great revolution happening, which is for right now, we have compounding improvement. And the beauty of the agent orchestrator is that we might give it skin in the game. And this is what people are doing right now in a few online projects that maybe we can discuss more in the comments. And we are seeing the shift of AI from a friend to a CEO in what I'm going to say 2.5 years. AI is going from a friendly conversational system into a CEO. This is a giant evolution. And it comes with problems. And it comes with human problems. Agentic fever. So agentic fever is this sense that, well, some people in Silicon Valley are already thinking it's kind of over. This is the last few years to make money, maybe the last few months to make money. So run. People are constantly feeling that they are missing out. I was constantly feeling that I was missing out because I was not on the agent actively. Getting obsessed with understanding all the tools, setting the tools. So this whole thing with OpenClaw, which I'm not going to explain, you can find other videos. Yes, I have installed my OpenClaw. I wasted a lot of time on it, but it was teaching me this agentic philosophy as I was using it. So it's not in itself a technology. It doesn't do anything really, and it doesn't do anything that Claude Code cannot do, but it's a really interesting learning experience for the human. And you have this feeling of constant fear because things are changing so fast. And so I think a lot of us have been thinking and feeling this AI burnout, this agentic fever. And I believe that this is just a step. It's a learning curve. The things are moving too fast for us not to have a human reaction. Tell you the way I'm dealing with it is understanding more and using these tools more. Obviously, I'm sleeping much better than 2 weeks ago. I've already gone back to my healthy routines. I've never kind of lost my healthy routines, but I'm trying and I'm starting to understand what is the right posture towards this technology, because I think we can go to a better way, an agentic philosophy. And this agentic philosophy has two parts, the human part and the machine part. The human part is more important than the machine part, but the machine part is more detailed. So how do we get out of, and how do we deal with agentic fever? So let's take care of the human. So if you're using Claude Code today, and you're watching this video, if you're using OpenClaw today, if you're using Claude Cowork today, if you're using agent mode on ChatGPT, you are not missing out. You are on the bleeding edge of what is happening. So forget about the fear of missing out. And humans are great at being human. And it's quite paradoxical. I'm giving you a tool that is so great at execution and it can work as a COO. And what do? We get the burnout. So it's paradoxical, but this is how our psyche works. And I have never been as excited with a technology. The last time I was as excited with a technology, it was 1993. Okay, and it was the web, and it was creating HTML pages by hand. Okay, there were no HTML generators, and the bleeding edge web technology was CGI bin. And most of you don't even know what it is, but Google CGI bin if you want to suffer. Okay, server side. Okay, that's another video. That's another rant. But humans need to continue being sharp. Sleep, stay calm, because they are the trainers of the models. They are And we are good at being human. And even if we fail sometimes and we get overexcited and we lose sleep, then what we need to do is go back to what we do best. And we'll discuss this in a second. AI needs us sharp, okay? Because it's very tricky to have it work right the way we want it to work. And what we need is just to go back to systems thinking. And if you don't know about systems thinking, go look the next video on the playlist, hopefully is a video on systems thinking. And in case I will do one, is that good inputs bring good outputs. And so if you are feverishly burning out in front of the machine and trying to make it do more and more and more because the world is going to end tomorrow, you're going to create a frantic, anxiety-driven agent that is going to fail. If you distill, calm down, and then instruct the agent, I think what you will achieve is something much better. So as I told you, 3 weeks ago, I was still in this mindset, the coding agent creates code. And then I shifted into the coding agent is my agent, and it does the work. And every once in a while, we'll call some code, but it will call it from a conversation. So this is a whole agentic philosophy that I am understanding, I am learning from other people. This is how I would summarize the machine side of agentic philosophy. So the first thing is that code is new and language is now code. So simple markdown SOP, standard operating procedures, are equal to code. And the human, not only is the human in the loop right now, but the human is the instructor. And the instruction needs to be very clear that we're not here to build, we are here to instruct. And your data is the training. And so, for instance, I created an outreach machine. And I thought at the beginning, the way I thought through the outreach machine was in terms of systems and silos and mechanisms. And I was thinking, oh, I need a CRM, I need this, and I need that. And what I did in the end, and I was thinking sequentially, and then I was thinking, in the end, I will need to have a web interface where I can click on things. And what I did instead in the agentic world, and I said, the agent is the center. And then there's some API calls to mail. There's some API calls to LinkedIn. Well, LinkedIn doesn't have APIs, but there's tools that have the APIs. There's a Google Sheet. So where some data is stored, there is the file system, but the agent is the surface. The agent is the software. So your data is connected to, once you connect your data to these agents, and be mindful, be careful about that, that is the training. And then you start instructing the agent to log everything, review and improve, and be proactive. And if you are successful in this, you are going to enter this kind of compounding phase for the agent, where the agent every day gets a prompt from you saying, go into the improvement routine, look at the logs, what can you do better, what can we do more efficiently, etc. And then we have these new paradigms where we're creating skills and getting skills from the internet. And these are the job descriptions. And then we have agent orchestrators, but in general, already any agent tool can create sub-agents. And you will have these sub-agents be the workforce and use different models, like you use a more expensive model to orchestrate, and then you use another less expensive model to do some of the work. And then for the brute force, for the web research, etc., you use an even cheaper model, and you have this tiered architecture. So I've tried to do a ton in this video. This is what we explored. I believe there's so much more to explore than what we just said here. And probably there's a lot of shorthand in this video that wasn't completely understandable. I would love to hear from you and hear about your experience with this excitement, this agentic fever, how you're dealing with it. Give me some feedback here in the comments. And I'm right now, one of the reasons why I've been posting less is I'm obsessed with this as well.
I'm going to walk you through 5 different business models that you can start today with OpenClaw. Now, obviously, OpenClaw has completely taken over the AI industry because it's the first autonomous AI agent that can go and complete tasks, think on its own, and actually build something like a business from scratch. And so in this video, I'm going to walk you through 5 real examples of businesses that have been started with OpenClaw that you can go and recreate for yourself. We're going to start with the simplest business and work our way up to the most complex and advanced business that you can start with OpenClaw in order to make your first $100,000. So the first business here that we have on the list is actually an OpenClaw setup or configuration business. So this is SetupClaw. Pretty simply put, they help people build their own OpenClaw deployments. So obviously with any new technology, you're always going to have the service providers that actually just go and help leverage you to other people to use that technology. And that's exactly what SetupClaw here does. They have a really clean site here, which I really like. It's right to the point, kind of similar to like the audience it probably serves, which kind of being these technical people, CEOs, executives that are kind of straight to the point. They're looking to build their own OpenClaw configuration. Essentially what they do here is they explain a little bit about what OpenClaw is for those not familiar. Then they kind of walk you through the process. So here you can say they go through kickoff, they understand your goals, they'll map out the integrations, they'll actually help like connect different tools, I assume, to your OpenClaw, and then they'll go and actually deploy it, whether it being on a VPS or it seems like they can also run it locally on a Mac Mini, and they'll make sure that everything's secure, everything is working correctly, so that you don't need to deal with the headaches of actually having to build this out, because it is kind of time consuming in order to get your OpenClaw to a good point. They also have some support. And so essentially what they're doing is they're just capitalizing on OpenClaw as a tool, and they're just helping busy people set it up. They don't want to have to deal with some of the setup, which is honestly quite a pain. You can see they worked with some big people, it looks like Sam Parr, David Rosen. These are pretty big entrepreneurs that are already leveraging them in order to create their own OpenClaw. But what's really interesting here is that we can actually take a look at their revenue. This is Trust MRR, which we'll be using to verify all these. You can see it looks like in the last 30 days since they've launched, they've done $36,000 in revenue. So I don't think this has been a full month yet since they've even been around. So pretty impressive, honestly, for a business that's just off the ground. Looks like they have the kind of default $3,000. Then they also have a $5,000 a month, $5,000 setup if you just want Mac Mini setup. If you want Mac Mini in person, it'll be $6,000 if you want to add multiple agents. So they already start building out kind of the upsell money model, if you will, in order to kind of get people to continuously working with them. But they just have this like really clearly laid out, right? After you purchase, you're gonna have 48 hours, kind of the upsell money model, if you will, in order to kind of get people Mac Mini setup. If you want Mac Mini in person, it'll be $6,000. if you want to add multiple agents. So they already start building out kind of the upsell money model, if you will, in order to kind of get people to continuously working with them. But they just have this like really clearly laid out, right? After you purchase, you're gonna have 48 hours. I really like the simplicity of this entire thing. And again, this is just a really clear opportunity where they just saw that people need help building these OpenClaws. OpenClaw is a super in-demand thing, and they built a pretty solid business on it. We'll see how sustainable it is long term. Obviously, as OpenClaw continues to get better and more people start using it, I assume that the setup will also get easier and easier. And so I question whether this will be kind of a long-term play or more of a short-term kind of money-making opportunity. But either way, they're clearly crushing it. You can see they launched it here on February 1st. Looks like this tweet did decently 27,000, and then they made their first money. It looks like on the same day. So pretty cool. Just kind of showing like the power of just being able to use distribution. You can literally launch a business or an idea from day one and have paying customers the next day. So that's pretty cool. They've also gone ahead and partnered with Row Business, which is actually one of the biggest startup banks. Looks like they're helping business owners and founders set up their own executive OpenClaws with Row, which is a super smart strategy for them. So if you went to row.co/setup-claw, you can see that they basically connected the little partners page here, which is super smart for both Row and setup-claw, because obviously they're going to be attracting a lot of founders. And so really smart play here, and I'm sure this will pay positively for both parties. So I think another great business model here is basically creating a content studio that is powered by AI. So this is a friend of mine's agency. His name is Deal Room Media. They do around $200,000 a month, so quite a significant business. So what is the opportunity for an autonomous content pipeline as a service? So obviously we know that distribution is everything. Every founder needs to post consistently, and almost none of them do. And traditional agencies are slow, they're expensive, and they lose brand voice as the writers turn over. And so what you can do is you can build an OpenClaw pipeline that runs 24/7, it monitors trends, it drafts in client voice, it schedules across different platforms. That way you can have one operator, 5 different pipelines, charge $2,000 a month per client, and right there you have a $10,000 a month business just as a start. As an example, Deal Room Media, who we actually helped a few months ago do exactly this. They were a LinkedIn traditional agency. We helped take them from a business that was all manual, had a bunch of writers, it was very slow, and we were able to use AI, mix of Lovable, OpenClaw, OpenAI to basically build their own content AI pipeline that basically handled all the heavy lifting. Here's a quick little demo of kind of what we did for them. But in essence, we basically built them their very own internal tool that's trained on their DNA that goes and actually does the writing, does the ideation, does the review. All their writers need to do now is just oversee it, make sure it all looks good, and save them a ton of time every month. But ultimately, it makes their business a lot more profitable. I think there are so many of these different opportunities right now where you can go create other content pipelines. Things like an agent that monitors Reddit or RSS. You can have an agent you can have a research agent, right? So something that monitors RSS, Reddit, LinkedIn, X for trending topics. It can then resonate and kind of re-engineer what's already working. Then you can have agents that draft up content. You can have different voices for different clients, and ultimately you can have agents for distribution, for scheduling posts, tracking engagement, all this kind of stuff to continuously improve the flywheel. So the next business model would be to build and sell vertical skills on Claude Hub. Skills, in essence, are ways that your agent can go and learn new skills and learn new tasks and connect to different things that isn't necessarily in their typical stack. And so you can see that things like Trello, Slack, calendar tools, etc. These are skills that you can give to your OpenClaw in order for it to leverage how to use Trello or how to use Slack. So think of it as plugins to your OpenClaw. And so one thing that you can do is you can basically create your own skills and list it on Claude Hub and be able to actually charge money for it. So you can see one of these skills, for example, does over $4,000 every single month. There's probably a lot of new skills that are going to come out, but I can only imagine how big of an opportunity this will be once OpenClaw becomes more mainstream, more enterprise. There are going to be so many different categories for disruption. For example, think how big Shopify plugins are, right? You have Shopify plugins that do hundreds of millions of dollars for really simple things just because they've been the kind of the first tool to enter that specific marketplace. I think there's going to be huge disruption in the OpenClaw kind of skills or plugins category. So think, you can build your own SEO skill, right? How do you write articles? How do you get them to rank? You can connect with other tools. So think Shopify, Airtable, Stripe, Slack. These are tools that people are going to want to connect to in their business. You could also be more specific with like CRM follow-ups and sequencing and all different things that a sales or marketing team may need. And you can also do things like competitor intelligence briefings where you basically plug it into Product Hunt and Reddit and be able to train it on how to actually go about researching competitors and potential people that you may want to look at on these platforms. And so I think it's going to be a massive industry. Nobody's really talking about building OpenClaw skills. I'm sure a lot of it will be done by OpenClaw and by the creators of these platforms themselves. But I think some of them, of course, are going to be left for third parties, like potentially yourself, to go and make money from. Okay, so the next one on this list is a multi-agent operation consultant. So think about this. One OpenClaw agent is a productivity upgrade. 10 agents is a whole team. So being able to actually leverage OpenClaw more than just one individual and having it build out an entire team of roles, shared memory, protocols, security, all these different things, it now becomes a much more complex system. And so I think you're going to be able to see, and what you're able to do is helping people not only just set up their OpenClaws, but build them into almost organizations. And that becomes a lot more complex, which means you can charge a lot more money because you're going to be saving them a lot more time and money. So this is Banu, I don't want to mess up his name, but essentially what he's done is he's built a mission control for a team of agents. And what he's now been able to do is been able to help consult people on how to basically build this for themselves. Not only just the platform, but all the infrastructure that goes into doing this. I also put a video yesterday outlining my friend Vadim's whole entire system that he's used on OpenClaw to build out his company. And you can see, he has his core AI, which runs on Opus 4.6. He has research agents, he has content agents, he has design agents. These are all using different models depending on the cost and capabilities that are required. And so over time, this becomes a very strenuous thing to manage, to set up. And so I think there's going to be a really big opportunity for somebody to kind of come in as a OpenClaw consultant in order to basically replicate what somebody like Vadim has been able to do for himself. Or in the case of Banu, he's already been able to do it pretty effectively. You can see he's also started this, which I believe is run by his OpenClaw and it's built entirely by his OpenClaw. And so he basically has his team of OpenClaw agents building his own company. But I think he's also going now, you can see selling kind of the whole accessing your own team of AI agents. I think you could do this on a more customized level rather than just like having a template. I think you could really help people build out these systems and make a lot of money doing it. And then the last business model that I would look at starting is a OpenClaw powered productized service, aka a OpenClaw wrapper. I still think that there's an opportunity here to basically simplify some of the skill sets that OpenClaw is really good in the form factor of a software that people that aren't technical and don't want to deal with the setup of OpenClaw can go and do. So let's take an example here. So this is OpenClaw Pro. They do $57,000 a month, which is a pretty substantial business. Essentially what they've done, again, is like this is probably the most obvious software play. I'm seeing a lot of people do this now, but essentially it's a software productized version of OpenClaw. And so instead of having to go through the setup yourself and run it locally and having to deal with all that, this is a software that essentially handles all the kind of headache for you. And so, you have a lot of different options when it comes to building your own OpenClaw. I would say this is one of the people that just kind of want to get access to it and want to just be able to use it off the gate without having to deal with the setup. They're going to kind of lean towards tools like this. If I go to TrustMR and I go to OpenClaw, you're going to see all these different kind of softwares that are built on top of OpenClaw. So here's another one. Let's see. Done the OpenClaw as an AI system. So this is another one where you can kind of deploy your own OpenClaw in one click. And so you can see very similar idea. They're basically productizing OpenClaw. So this would be kind of probably the most complex. Obviously you need to be fairly technical in order to build this. But I think there's probably some other opportunities here that haven't been fully tapped, probably more niche. So instead of having to go towards just like the setup of OpenClaw, I think maybe targeting a specific niche and kind of capitalizing on the OpenClaw name. So maybe you go after lawyers, right? And you help them build their own legal assistant that they can basically use through software rather than having to set up themselves. There are things like this where I think just based on the name of OpenClaw, people are going to be able to make a lot of money. I'll include the entire link to all these startups as well in case you want to go through them, because I think there's some really interesting ones. And you can see that people are already making quite a lot of money with these OpenClaw businesses, and it's really only been around for a couple months. So I think
Perplexity Computer might be the next big thing. It can operate the browser like a human can, create files of any type, generate both images and videos, integrate with over 400 different softwares, launch sub-agents, do super thorough research, use the terminal, and much, much more. Yeah, this AI agent is powerful. My name is David Andre, and in this video, I'm going to show you what Perplexity Computer even is, how it compares to agents like OpenClaw or Agent Zero, and how to use it effectively. Because in 2026, using AI agents is no longer optional. If you don't, you're going to get replaced. Now, first off, what even is Perplexity Computer? A simple explanation is that it's a really powerful AI agent. In fact, the closest thing to compare it to is Manus, which went viral last year, and this is a hosted AI agent in the cloud, right? But I would say that Perplexity took this concept to the next level. So imagine something like OpenClaw, but for less tech-savvy people. No need for a VPS installation, setup, API keys, none of that complications, with a much cleaner user interface and a super powerful web search because Perplexity, they're the king of web search. Plus, also Perplexity solved the biggest problem that AI agents have, which most people are completely unaware of, which is getting blocked. Most websites actually block traffic from AI agents or from different bots. That's a problem on multiple levels, right? They cannot even access the website, but if they can, they cannot do stuff. They cannot click buttons, fill out forms, and move around like a human would, right? And the reason the websites get blocked when AI agents try to access them is because most agents try to connect from a data center IP address, right? So again, if you use ChatGPT 5.4 Pro, OpenAI is hosting it on a data center. Even if you're running your own VPS, that's also some data center. And it is the data center IP address which gets blocked on a lot of websites. So for example, one solution is running your AI agent locally, such as what we do with Agent Zero, right? It runs on your computer inside of a Docker container, and it uses your residential IP address, which means it can do basically anything, right? Since you as a human can access any website, the agent can do the same, it can click around, it can do stuff, right? It is not blocked. But Perplexity figured out something different because remember, Perplexity Computer is a hosted solution. This is not running on my computer. This runs in the cloud. So what they figured out is an architecture where computer is still cloud hosted but doesn't get blocked, right? Now obviously a lot of this is going to be proprietary. They're not going to reveal what that is, but what we know is that it runs in a VM in a virtual machine, and they probably use thousands of different proxies so that they avoid getting blocked. So let's look at the high-level overview of how this works, right? So on the left you have your device, laptop, computer, or your mobile phone. You set a prompt to a cloud orchestrator. This is usually Claude Opus 4.6, but you can change it. When you start a task, you can click orchestrator model, and they offer the best models in the world. So the orchestrator has access to 19 different AI models, and it routes the request based on the different types of tasks. And I'm going to explain that in a second because this is really advanced, right? So this is the magic. There's two different VMs. There's a Firecracker micro VM with 2 vCPUs, 8 gigs of RAM, and this boots in less than 125 milliseconds and dies after session. And this doesn't share any details with the cloud browser VM. This is a different IP and it's a total separate machine. And this is not only for security, so like if there's some code injection, it doesn't affect the cloud browser VM, but also I suspect that a lot of this is for this issue of getting blocked, right? Another major advantage of Perplexity Computer is that it uses the best model for the task. For example, if you use Claude Code, yeah, it's very powerful. I use it every day. It's amazing, but it's owned by Anthropic. So even if a better model comes out from Google, from OpenAI, Claude Code is always going to use Anthropic models, right? Opus, Sonnet, and Haiku. They'll never allow you to use different models. That's not the case with Perplexity. They're not locked to one provider, right? They can use Gemini, Grok, Claude, DeepSeek, anything out there. They don't care. They're going to use the best model for the job, which is benefit to us, the users. Now, a lot of this architecture behind Perplexity Computer is actually inspired by the other product, Perplexity Model Console. So basically, when you select the Model Console, any prompt that you send goes to all of the top AI models from different companies. So Claude, GPT, and Gemini. And then there's a synthesizer that reviews outputs, resolves the conflicts, and give you one answer that shows where the models agree and where they differ, right? That's why it's named Model Console. And I think they use a lot of the same architecture when building Perplexity Computer. In fact, when doing research, I found how their model router works. So again, the orchestrator selects the optimal AI model for each task. For orchestration, the best is Opus 4.6, research, Sonnet 4.6, asset creation, Opus, code generation, GPT. Now it's going to be 5.4. This is from 2 weeks ago. But anytime a new model comes out, the developers of Perplexity just update it, and it's always using the latest, greatest models, which is a benefit to you as the user because you don't have to, spend multiple hours a day on Twitter and keep up with the best models for different use cases. You just know that, okay, these people who are logged in, they're going to update it to use the best models at all times. And feel free to pause and read through this task type and which model Perplexity Computer uses for different types. Last 3 or 4 years. And what they've done really, really well, maybe better than anyone, is that they've indexed the entire web to create the best web search tools, best APIs, and now the best web search agents. So now let me show you just a few things of what Perplexity Computer can really do, because this agent is really, really strong. So here it built 225k marketing tools, so basically a bunch of marketing tools that scan hourly, manage budgets, detect fatigue, and coordinate several campaigns end to end. But it's kind of crazy that you can have these AI agents run micro. It's like Andre Karpathy's auto research. They can run these micro variations on different ad creatives and make your business a lot more money than you ever could yourself, because you cannot do 224 micro optimizations in a matter of a couple hours. Another thing I want to show you is what someone built with Perplexity Computer is a tool that can port any Spotify playlist into YouTube Music. Here's another cool tool that Perplexity Computer built. It's a peer-to-peer file web transfer system without the need for accounts. So as you can see, you just share like a QR code and it moves the file over. In this case, I guess it's pirating some UFC fight footage. But the point is how many different libraries and tools Perplexity Computer can use with no extra interaction needed from you, the user. So yeah, as you can see, Perplexity Computer can build pretty much anything. In fact, I'm going to show you how to use it so you can do the same. But the big issue is that no matter what app you build, it cannot sell the app for you. Because the moment you have customers from hundreds of different countries, you need to handle taxes, managing subscription invoices. This is a whole another game. And it's going to be very time consuming unless your AI agent can handle it for you as well. That's right, your coding agent can now handle the payments for you, and I'm not over-exaggerating. Cream is what you call a merchant of record. They are the company that appears on your customers' credit card statements, which means that they will deal for all the taxes, compliance, chargeback refunds on your behalf. And it works across more than 100 different countries. But here's my favorite part. They have an official skill.md file. So if you go to cream.io/skill.md, you'll see a long instruction that you can just copy-paste into your AI agent, telling it how to use Cream. And this works with Claude Code, Codex, Agent Zero, OpenClaw, any agent that supports agent skills. So all you do is you copy this one prompt, and you paste it into your AI agent, such as Claude Code, and it will fetch this instruction, which I just show you, which is a very detailed system prompt, and it will read the skill, and it will know everything it needs to know on how to use Cream. And it will integrate the entire payment system into your project, including CLI, webhooks, subscriptions, license keys, all of it. And once you're live, the agent can actually monitor your store through the heartbeat that they provide. This allows it to proactively message you when there's a cancellation, a new purchase, or some alert. They even have an entire section in their docs for AI, right? So that AI can browse the docs and fetch whatever it needs. Cream also has a built-in affiliate program that's super easy to launch. It gives